One of the most difficult things for newbie investors to understand is how to do their own comps. Comps are difficult in general. Some real estate agents struggle to do comps, and they've been taught and they've been to school to understand how comps work. So it's very common for any investor to struggle a bit doing their own comps. And what tends to happen is a lot of the investors depend 100% on their partnerships with real estate agents in order to obtain those comps. Now, what happens over time usually is that agent gets a bit burnt out by doing comps every single day. What I'm going to teach today is how you can take responsibility for doing your own numbers. Now, we've talked in previous videos about understanding how ARV can be used to project out what you can make on an investment after certain things are done. And we also talk about utilizing market values to also help with that. So comps are more so geared towards talking about market value as opposed to ARV, but at times market value and ARV can be the same thing. So let's talk about what goes into comps. The first thing you want to learn is the terminology. So when you're talking to that motivated seller about their property, that property becomes your subject property because that's the property that you're trying to come up with a potential value range for. So let's talk about our subject property. Let's say you're looking at a property that's 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and it's 1,100 square feet. Okay. It's a brick home. It's on a slab foundation. Let's say it's a 1-car garage. And it's on a 1/4 acre lot. Okay, so these are things that you would start. This is how you would just start when you're looking at a subject property. You want to look at those things. These things are called constants. Constants are difficult to change, and it gives you the framework of what you're looking for when it comes to your comps. Another thing to keep in mind is location. Location is key. So understanding that this house, we're going to say it's in Poplar Grove subdivision. We're going to abbreviate it with PG, okay? And when you're looking at your comps, you want your comps to be within the same subdivision. If you're in a suburban setting. If you're in the suburbs and there's no subdivisions, you want the comps to be within 1 mile. If you're in an urban setting, you want comps to be within 1/4 mile. And if you're in a country setting, you want to be in that 3 to 5 mile range. Okay, so now we got our parameters set. Now let's look at our comps and what does that look like? Well, the first thing you want to think about is how many comps do you need? Most of the time you're going to want 3 unless you find a 100% direct comp that doesn't have any outside variables that's impacting the price, like foreclosure or a relocation or something like that. If you find a 100% direct comp, feel free to use it. However, the theory is you want to have about 3, but you want to make sure that you're not just grasping at straws to trying to find those 3 comps. If you have one solid comp within the same subdivision, you're going to want to roll with that, okay? So let's do 3 comps within the Poplar Grove subdivision. And what does that look like? Let's see. Comp number 1. Comp number 2. And comp number 3. And we're going to say all 3 of these houses have 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. They're all 3 and 2s. And we're going to say all houses are built on a slab foundation. So across the board, they're built on slab. Okay, and let's say across the board, all these houses are built out of brick. And they're all within the Poplar Grove neighborhood. And let's say they're all on a 1/4 acre lot. And let's say they all actually have a 1-car garage. Now, someone may say that's unlikely, but the reality is the chances of that happening is more likely than not because of the concept of conformity. So conformity is a term that suggests that houses within the same neighborhood tend to look alike. Neighborhoods that have houses with brick and 2-car garage and split levels, it's amazing that when you look at houses in neighborhoods, people always call them cookie cutter. There's a reason for them to be cookie cutter neighborhoods, because conformity. Conformity makes it easy for real estate agents like myself and also for appraisers to easily place a value or a potential sale price on a house. So think about that. So the chance of all this happening is very true. The thing that may differ, though, could be square footage. And I'm going to show you how to utilize square footage in order to do a price range on a subject property in order to get a market value, or ARV. So let's say our first comp is priced at 1,100 square feet. Excuse me. Let's say our first house is priced at 160,000. And our second house is priced at 165,000. And our third house is priced at 170,000, meaning these houses close within the last 30 to 90 days, or in a hot market, you can use houses that are pending or under contract to project out your trends. Okay, so now we know what these houses closed for, okay? Now we want to look at our square footage to see how these houses differ. So let's get this out of the way and let's put our square footage in. So let's say this house is, the first comp is 1,200 square feet, and the second comp is 1,350, and the next comp is, let's call it 1,250. Okay, so what you want to do when you're looking at square footage is make sure it's in a range. You want to be in like a 5% range, 10% range. The thing that you want to make sure is that you do not look at houses that are 2,500 square feet when you're trying to look at a subject property that's 1,100 square foot. That just doesn't make sense, because houses that are larger tend to have a suppressed price per square footage, okay? Also, you want to make sure that if you're looking at a single family residence, that if it's a one-story home, that you're not comparing it against two-story homes. Over time and historically, houses that are on one-story or ranch-style houses tend to sell for a higher price per square foot. Now, most people will say, why? Because two-story houses appear bigger. The reality is ranch homes have a bigger footprint. So let's say you have a 1,200 square foot ranch house and a 1,200 square foot two-story. The two-story is probably going to be a 600 square foot footprint with 600 below and 600 up top. But with a ranch style house, the footprint is bigger, meaning a bigger foundation, meaning higher construction costs. So keep that in mind. Ranch style houses tend to sell at a higher price per square foot. Okay, so let's get our comps. Let's do our price per square footage. So we know what these houses sold for. What we want to do is add all those up. So 160 plus 165 plus 170. Okay, let's get our calculator up. 160 plus 165 plus 170, 495. So that tells us that the average, all these houses combined, is 495,000, and you want to get an average price for the houses in that neighborhood. So you want to divide that by 3, and that's going to give you an average price. So let's do that really quickly and just divide it by 3 to give us an average price. So the average home cost in that neighborhood is 165. Okay, so the average house that looks like our comp costs us about $165,000. All right, so we have that. Now what you want to do is take all of these square footages or square feet and add them together. So we got 1,200 plus 1,250 plus 1,350. Okay. 1,200 plus 1,250 plus 1,350 gives us 3,800. All right, so we take our 165 and we divide that by 3,800, and that's going to give us a price per square foot. So let's get that number. 165,000 is our average home price, and 495 is what all of the prices added together equal. So let's divide 495 divided by 3,800. 130.26. That is our average price per square foot. So how do we use this number? How do we use this number to get our market value? We take that number and we multiply it by the square footage of our subject property. So our subject property is 1,100 square feet. So we multiply 1,100 square feet by 130.26. So we just multiply that. And that gives us 143,289. $143,289. So that gives us the market value. So 143,289 is what you would potentially have as your ARV. Now, why does this matter? Well, if you're trying to be a wholesaler and you're trying to make sure that you have accurate numbers, you're going to have great respect from any potential investor if you can break these numbers down and say at price per square foot, this is what you're looking at. Now, what if they decide that they want to add square footage? There's also ability for you to help them price that out. So it's going to make you more of an educated investor, and you're not going to have to really chase down your real estate agent partners. Another thing that you can utilize is utilizing your real estate agent partners just to provide you with raw numbers, and they don't have to go through and do all these equations for you. They can just provide you with the raw numbers and you can do the math yourself. Also, you can take this 130.26 price per square foot and you can multiply it by the largest house and the biggest house in the neighborhood, and that creates your range. Okay, so you don't just have to have that one number. You can create a range, and what you do is you take the printouts of those houses, the MLS printouts, or you go see those houses and see what those houses are made of. You look at the things that are easily changed, and that's how you build up value or force appreciation within your house. All right, so if those houses that are selling for a higher price per square foot have gray paint inside and they have a specific color laminate floor, you want to make sure that you utilize that to build your house, and you want to make those as your repair costs. What we don't want to do is reinvent the wheel. We don't want to be adding square footage. We don't want to have to add bedrooms. We don't want to have to add multiple bathrooms in order to make our profit margin work. So we want to keep it simple at first. The key is to provide value to all interactions that you have. And if you have this knowledge, you're able to provide value to the investors that are looking to purchase homes from you or to work with you. So if you provide value, the rest will take care of itself. If you found this information useful, please subscribe to our channel. Also, if you want to click the bell to get alerts from us, we're constantly dropping new and fresh information that's going to help a newbie or help a seasoned investor, all the same.